Evening, Will Score Special fans. Host and creator Will Farley. When the fourth quarter buzzer sounds, you turn to us for your fifth quarter sports talk. I'm here giving you a recap of Chicago Bulls action during the recent trade deadline just finishing earlier today. So, Chicago Bulls made 7 trades. We talked about it. They traded for Dario Saric over the weekend. They got him and 2 second-round picks, being part of a 3-team deal with Cleveland and Sacramento. Then we saw them make the trade with Detroit and Minnesota in a 3-team deal that sent Jaden Ivey to the Chicago Bulls. So really good move on that front as they sent Kevin Huerter and Dario Saric to Detroit. Then the Chicago Bulls proceeded to make a move, in my opinion, that should have happened a while ago for this player. Nikola Vucevic and a second-round pick in 2027, formerly belonging to Denver, being sent to the Boston Celtics. Boston sending over Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons. And a 2026 second-round pick that used to belong to the Pelicans, would be 32nd overall if the draft was today. And also, the Chicago Bulls made another trade or two yesterday, sending Kobe White to the Charlotte Hornets. In exchange, the Charlotte Hornets sent over Ousmane Dieng and a couple second-round picks. So they got a couple second-round picks out of it, sending that to the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls then, overnight, sent Dalen Terry to the New York Knicks, who then today sent Dalen Terry over to the Pelicans for Alvarado. The Chicago Bulls received Yuba Sally, a French power forward that could play center a little bit, a big man that they could use in the front court. Originally, he had a player option, but it was reported today that in that deal, before the Knicks made the deal to send him to Chicago, he had that waived. So he is on an expiring $5 million contract this year. Bulls won't have to cover more than half of that, I believe. And today, a shocking Bulls trade of 2 as hometown player Ayo Dosunmu was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves this morning, along with Julian Phillips. Julian Phillips and Ayo headed to Minnesota in exchange for Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, 2 good young players with still a lot of potential in the league. They head to Chicago with 4 second-round draft picks. Then the Bulls traded Dieng to the Bucks for Richards, a center that they needed desperately in their front court. So Nick Richards coming to Chicago. So tonight they had their first game with the newly formed team. They had Anthony Simons, they had Jaden Ivey, Yabu Sali, all active tonight. So those guys put on a show. But just recapping the trade deadline, Arturas had a lot of things to say to the media. He's finally doing something Bulls fans wanted the last few years, and I'm happy about it. He, has kind of been all over the place the last few years, kind of saying we're going this way, then we're going that way. And he set a direction today. He set that direction before the season as well. We knew some changes were coming with 7 to 8 players in contract years. So the Chicago Bulls made some pretty smart moves. We don't know what's going to happen with Anthony Simons, Colin Sexton, how those guys are going to factor in to the team's future as they are on expiring contracts. Yabu Sali is also on an expiring contract, not making much. He could go out in free agency and make more for how he did tonight against the, Raptors for the Bulls in his first game in Chicago. Jaden Ivey is my favorite, along with Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and the draft picks. In terms of favorite, I mean players that you could see fitting long-term in Chicago. Looking at the long-term like Arturas said he is. And Anthony Simons could be brought back. You never know. There is that possibility. Same with Colin Sexton. I think Simons, what he's played this year, will cost a lot more than the Bulls want to pay. We kind of had that, be the reason Kobe White was traded. They didn't want to have to pay what Kobe would be, looking for. I think Anthony Simons is going to be looking for that too. So we don't know what's going to happen, but I like the moves by Arturas. A lot of trades, showing that they're going to be going into the youth movement, building around Matas Buzelis. You mentioned building around the core of Noah Essengay, Okoro, Giddey, Buzelis, and Jalen Smith. I like Jalen Smith at center. Could play power forward. He's a really good young player for the Bulls that they brought in. And within the last few years, one of their smart free agent signings, I'd say, as of recent. And I think Jaden Ivey will be part of that backcourt of the future with Josh Giddey. Those two together, I think, will be a really nice duo. I could see Rob Dillingham fitting in well with Trey Jones and Josh Giddey for the Chicago Bulls in the backcourt depth, along with Leonard Miller. He's going to be a really good help in the front court for Chicago. If you go into free agency here in the future and Yabusele doesn't come back, they're able to keep Leonard Miller around. I think he'd be a really good young piece for this team, that's trying to build for the long term. And I like the moves by Chicago. I really do. So a great job by Arturas Karnisovas. I'm going to give him a B+. I would say like an A or something higher, but you could have traded a couple of these guys in the last few years. Now, a lot of fans are saying that too, what I've seen in the reports. But then I thought about it. You could say a lot of what-ifs about a lot of different things in sports. And maybe, they would have gotten something higher back then. Maybe some first-round picks. We don't know. But you can't look to the past. You need to move on to the future, even as a fan. And that's what my viewpoint is from all this. It's tough to see Ayo go. He was my favorite Chicago Bull after Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah and those guys. He was one of my favorite Chicago Bulls. But, sports is also a business. And the Chicago Bulls had these players in contract years, and they knew some of the uncertainty. Yes, they got 2 players to 3 now, with Yabusele dropping that player option for the following year, being able to get picked up. 3 players in contract years. Restricted free agent Jaden Ivey and Leonard Miller stuff. So there's some situations for the Bulls right now they're going to have to decide. But I think Jaden Ivey will obviously be brought back. I think it'd be kind of hard not to bring a 23-year-old shooting guard with still a lot of potential in his future. He's been injured a little bit here and there this year, struggled a bit. So hopefully the Bulls can get him on a nice, affordable extension. But really good job by Arturas Karnisovas and the Bulls with a bright future. When the fourth quarter buzzer sounds, turn to us for your fifth quarter sports talk. So long, everybody.